Hey everyone, Alchemist Lion here, and today we are going to take a look at how I have these amps set up. This is going to be mainly for me, just a kind of reference point to show I have this built, but at the same time I know some people are curious to see how I have this set up, so I'm just going to post it and yeah, show how it's done. Let's begin. Hey everyone, Alchemist Lion here, and we're sitting at Homebase, and I'm going to try to go over this build pretty quickly. I'm just going to go amp by amp, post it, and that's the way it's available for me to kind of revert back to when I want to try to rebuild this, because rebuild it I will, and I'm going to be adding some improvements that I've already kind of witnessed just with this. But the build itself, the areas that I got covered, how I have the vantage point set up, all things like that, I'm definitely going to be utilizing and keeping. Because this build is probably one of the best builds, and I've tried a few, to cover all the area for flingers and address a lot of the issues I was having in the past. Like I said, there's some changes, but this is mainly just to see the natural pathing and kind of a little aspect on how I might handle this going forward when I'm building my actual build that will be, within the structure limits and that sort of thing. Because I already have a few of the amps already, set up and, already in my designs built. I tore it down to do this because I really wanted to just do something fun. And that's what this build is. There's a lot of vantage points. I mean, it's solid, most runs till 19, and then you can get further than that if you fight a little bit. Some waves obviously are better than others. Even after 19, a few of the amps and waves will go AFK still, which is a testament to just, what you can get away with damage. Not utilizing the geysers and not utilizing recycling aspects, but just, having some fun with damage. And this build, because of the openness, I find it's a really fun one to fight in. And like I said, with war games, it's never a question if it will work or not, because at the lower levels that war games runs at, they barely get to this spot when it works. So, there's pros and cons to all of this, and everything just fits playing styles. This is really attuned to how I like to play Twine. I use Canny more so for the AFK endurance, and I like Twine if I want to have some fun, fight a little bit of husks. At the same time, I like running the war games in Twine for the epic and legendary perk up. So that's why I like a build like this. I'm just really antsy and have to build another endurance. I don't know. So I'm going to be breaking this again to build more, but this is what I'm going to end up coming back to. This is what I want to finish with, and I'll probably put one more endurance out for Twine. I'll try. I've done everything else now, so Twine's really the last aspect. I want to get a good damage build out there that's practical and underbuilt for people to utilize, and that's what's going to be next. So I'm going to tear this down and do that. But for now, I'm going to run through here because I'm going to use these videos coming up to build this again. So let's get started. So we're at the north side of Homebase, and I'm just starting here. This is really where I start building altogether, and we're right in line with where this starts. Is kind of where I started the pathing, and I'm just going to cover the basis and show exactly how it goes from here to the amp, and this is where the connecting pieces are. So we have a connecting piece here connecting onto our ridge amp, going over to the north, and so everything is connected over here, and we have like it attached to this roof over this side. And everything's set up and bordered off there. When we get inside here, as I didn't really trap out because not a lot of husks are going to walk down this way and cross in between, I just have this stuff trapped out. You'll find a lot of times what happens is the husks, they kind of want to go towards the middle and walk up. The closer to the outsides, the fewer husks will actually try to cut through this area. They really all just kind of path in and up towards that middle part. And that's really the only thing. I mean, Homebase, we've all seen it. I mean, you run it pretty much every time you run anything in Twine, so it's one that a lot of people are familiar with. All this over here is more just for things that would wander. So I have all that set off, and then it's kind of bordered off here. And then we get up this way. And when we get up here, you have another little bridge area that's shooting. And it connects, like, we have this up over here, so in case anything tries to go this way, we have these darts over here. And I just threw a bunch of healing pads, because why not? You're overbuilt, you might as well just go for the gusto. This actually makes it where base is pretty much not needed, because these will heal the builds that tend to blow up anyway. So it's kind of just a working function where it just helps not needing base. I have run this with supercharged traps, and I was very disappointed. It actually almost did worse, because when base is around, I find the husks are a little more aggravated. And yeah, I didn't find it did much of a difference. So I've just been running this without base, just having some fun with it as a ninja, being able to fly around and hop around. And so everything's just all anywhere I can get something floating. And you'll notice all the edges here, everything's just hovering. And how I really start this is up here at the main spawn area that you start in on. I kind of just blanket floors, and then once I have it set up and I kind of carve it out and I like make sure it's all to the height and stuff that I want, that's when I'll start to just like cut away at this and make it a little bit more design oriented versus just a blanket of floors above us. And that's where I clear out all the parts that aren't really needed, because nothing's going to come back to this side. And then just concentrate it where the husks are supposed to be pathing. And then I'll just kind of walk down to the east side here. So you notice kind of where I have all the traps set up. I'm just trying to walk around and get as much covered as possible, just so it's seen. Like I said, it's pretty typical, pretty straightforward. And not a build I would copy piece by piece, for instance, but the main change, I'll just address this now. I'll probably mention it a few times, but the main change is I don't know if I'd be using the gas traps in a floating design. I find gas traps really have their function underneath or over top the freeze traps. Right now in this, I find they're doing more harm with the propanes. They're just setting them off, and there's not a lot that I can do to damage them with darts and stuff in this little area, so I almost think a floating design base would be better off without the low damage. So take away the gas traps, take away the electric fields, and stick primarily to your drop traps, durability in the front, and going more towards crit along these ramps and stuff, where I have the electric fields right now. And then instead of these gas traps, putting in ceiling zappers and having it, you know, durability in the front end, we're going into a more crit and then reload in the back. But the ceiling zappers are something I've just been playing with a little bit more so recently. I've always had them in my builds. I knew there was value in them. I always use them kind of, I always say it's a Hail Mary at the end, but I'm noticing, especially after doing a build with not Spore Bat, with ceiling zappers only in Stonewood, as much of a challenge it was, I've noticed a big value in running ceiling zappers throughout the length of the tunnel. And that's something I want to try to explore, especially going and building in Twine here. You might see more of that. I did it in Canny with a lot of success in a build that I'll probably be releasing in the next little bit. But yeah, I'm really looking towards the zappers now as one of my main, you know, one tile high traps to utilize, simply for the fact of their high impact of damage and not setting off some of the problematic husks that the gas traps and electric fields do. But anyway, side rant. Yeah, this is just going down here now. That's hitting off. So same area, I kind of hover right around here, right where that rock wall is. That's where I start. That's where everything kind of starts spawning in, so that's where I have it covered. And then we're just going around here. And I'm just showing exactly where all my builds are, because I'll want to reference this later. And then in behind here, this is how it's all set up. And again, notice everything is floating. It's all based off of those few connection points. So I start at home base, I build all the way down here, and that's all off that one tile. That's why I give no one permissions, because I would not want this to fall. So yeah, it's all set up here. And then it's all floating. Again, everything is, you know, has to be hovering. You can't have any connecting or ground pieces, even though it would make the build run a million times better. That just, like I said, it's all about seeing the pathing. And some husks will path down here, just to try to get to you wherever you're AFKing. I find no matter where you are, some of them will always try to come down this way. But most of the time what they're going to do is they're all going to come up here and walk up here. And even the husks, with this being open, you can cover this and block this off and avoid having to put all these traps in with a few builds like right here. Literally 4 builds and you're done. But if you have this open, it's funny, they'll walk here and then they basically will just divert down and they'll try to walk up that path that everything else is walking. Even though all this is here, you'll see very little husks actually walking through here to cut through. If anything does, it's usually because I'm around, you know, pulling them along, but they'll all walk down to this side. So, you know, it's just, again, things, knowing how they'll path will help me build this underbuild very, very easily. And that's a main purpose of doing this, was to see how things react, and also just to mess with the smashers. My promo video showed them all up here just like raging at the top here and climbing the storm shield basically. They have nothing to do. There's nothing for them to hit. Everything is hovering, so they try to hit this. It's not going to work. So they just go mental, and they have no clue where to go. Sometimes I'll find them down at other amps. Now, some amps will have things they can hit, but Homebase is one that doesn't, and that's why you saw them hanging up here. And that's another reason I did this, is just to mess with them. But yeah, that is Homebase. And that's the video for today on, you know, these Twine amps. Hope this information is helpful. Like I said, I'm just kind of doing these quick because these aren't builds I really want people to be copying per se, but there's a lot of cool just information or, you know, just design aspects in these that I think are worthwhile seeing. So hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great day. Catch you around.